This is not just cold. This is a killer.
If this isn't climate change, then what is it?
As an American, I'm here to say we need to act.
All dramatic weather is our fault.
Oh my God!
Terrible tornadoes in Oklahoma. Horrible.
We know that this is because of the burning of fossil fuels.
Carbon could cost us the planet.
Makes me want to ask Al Gore about that, but where is he?
Is Al at one of his other houses?
Whether Gore's right about global warming didn't matter. You already pay for his remedy.
They're declaring war truly on jobs.
Titled this program Chill Out because after I researched the global warming scare, that was my conclusion. We ought to just chill out. But our government isn't chilling out. You now pay billions to try to fix global warming. And this year, The Hill, the Washington newspaper that covers Congress, said climate will be the political battle of 2014. Big money's being spent to convince Americans to vote to spend even more to try to stop global warming. In a moment, we'll hear from Bill Nye, the science guy, who says he's frantic about climate change. He'll debate Mark Morano of ClimateDepot.com. But first, let me set the terms of debate. People say to me, Stossel, you don't believe in global warming? But I do. I think it's a stupid question, because what do you mean when you say global warming? To me, it's really four questions. One, is the globe warming? Well, yes, global temperatures have risen, though not lately so much. Question two, is the warming man-made? Is it our fault? Three, is it a crisis? And four, if it is, can we do anything about it? Bill Nye's answers to those questions are yes, 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 and yes. And for years, he's told his viewers, beware of
what we call global warming. Global warming. The globe is getting too warm, and something we've got to be careful of. Otherwise, things could get weird.
Bill Nye joins us now, along with climate change skeptic Mark Morano. Mark, you first. Why aren't you scared? Bill and lots of people are.
We're now able to empirically look at their predictions that they made in the 80s and start to see them fail. And out of 117 climate models, one analysis showed 114 failed. So when the predictions are failing them, they'll still claim it's worse than they thought. But that's not the case here. So the bottom line is the burden of proof is on them, and they've failed to make the case.
Bill Nye?
In the year 1750, there were about 1 billion humans in the world. Now, there are well over 7 billion people in the world. It more than doubled in my lifetime. So all these people trying to live the way we live in the developed world is filling the atmosphere with a great deal more carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases than existed a couple centuries ago. It's the speed at which it is changing that is going to be troublesome for so many large populations of humans around the world. Now, you may have heard of the hockey stick graph. This is where we compare the temperature of the world over the last 10,000 years with the temperature now. And so we think of that as
oh
the
my God, it's
shaft
going
of
to
a
shoot
hockey
up.
stick. Well, it is shooting up. It's not going to. It is shooting up. And so it's the speed that we're going to have difficulty dealing with.
But temperature hasn't increased in the
say,
past 15 years. It isn't shooting up.
When you cherry pick the data for certain surface temperatures, you end up with a very small change, or hardly noticeable. These people try to introduce the idea that scientific uncertainty, plus or minus a few percent, is equivalent to doubt about the whole thing. This is perfectly analogous to the cigarette industry and cancer. Trying to introduce the idea that since you can't prove any one thing, the whole thing is in doubt.
As a consumer reporter, just hang on one second, Mark, I'll give you a shot. As a consumer reporter, I've covered 1,000 scares: lawn chemicals, cell phone radiation, pesticide residues, plastic bottles killing people, power lines, mad cow disease was going to kill everybody. And always the example is, yeah, there were doubters about cigarettes. I mean, that one example doesn't mean that the global warming scare is correct. But Mark, I should let you speak.
Yeah, for him to bring up cigarettes, I mean, these are the global warming scientists are the ones fulfilling a narrative. I mean, we have Michael Oppenheimer, one of the lead UN scientists, took an endowment from Barbara Streisand. He's the climatologist to the stars. He's
they got to get money from this. Barbara Streisand wants to give me money. I'll take it.
Right, but it's so insulting to imply that somehow skeptical scientists are on the pay like tobacco companies. It's the height of arrogance when you look at the actual data. The global warming scientists, through government grants, foundations, through media empowerment, have the full advantages of government money, foundation money, university money. There's not even any comparison, and yet these skeptical scientists, as their numbers have grown, we've had scientists like James Lovelock, who's the inventor of the Gaia Earth theory, who's reversed himself.
But a lot of climate scientists, serious ones, are genuinely worried.
The ones you'll always point to with these genuine climate scientists are from the United Nations. And the United Nations, the head of it, Rajendra Pachauri, has just came out last year or the year before and said their mission is to make the case that CO2 is driving global warming. They put the cart before the horse. And what happened was many UN scientists have now turned on it. Leonard Begstedt, a Swedish scientist, has just come out and said we wouldn't even have noticed the warming of the 20th century if it weren't for modern instrumentation. And the idea of the hockey stick that Bill Nye mentioned is absurd. That has been called, quote, statistical rubbish, unquote. And hundreds of scientists in dozens and dozens of studies have shown both the medieval and the Roman warming period, and these appeared in peer-reviewed journals, were as warm or warmer than current temperatures.
Bill?
See if we can agree about this. There used to be 1 billion people a couple centuries ago. Now there are 7 billion.
We agree on that. And the air is cleaner and people are living better and fewer people are starving because of capitalism and industrialization.
Do we agree that the atmosphere used to have 250 parts per million, now it has over 400 carbon dioxide?
More greenhouse gas out
We've had ice ages at between 2,000 and 8,000 parts per million in the geologic history of the Earth. We've had similar temperatures with 20 times the CO2 levels.
Climate does change.
Sure.
And if you look over time, we have a graph here from just the year 1000 to today. We had the medieval warm period. We had the little ice age. Big changes.
You've really messed with the far right-hand side of that graph.
That's the United Nations graph from 1990, pre-hockey stick, before they reinvented past temperatures.
Do you agree that it's never happened this fast?
Actually, we've had, without benefit of mankind, similar CO2 levels in the recent past without mankind's influence. And I think the speed has nothing to do with it. It comes down to hundreds of factors are influencing our climate here. CO2 is not the tail that wags the dog. Another scientist who's essentially reversed herself is Judith Curry from Georgia Institute of Technology. She now says openly that you cannot control weather by reducing emissions. And that seems to be the entire premise of the United Nations, that somehow if we tweak emissions through carbon taxes, cap and trade, we can alter weather patterns. You opened up with tornadoes and Barbara Boxer. She actually went down to the Senate floor the day of tornadoes and implied a carbon tax would help prevent future tornado outbreaks. This is medieval witchcraft.
Seems like every time there's a new weather extreme, some people say the cause was man-made global warming.
Tomorrow morning, 90% of the country will face below normal temperatures.
If this isn't climate change, then what is it? We know that this is because of the burning of fossil fuels.
In 1 year, we have had the largest tornado ever recorded on Earth. And we have had the fastest hurricane ever recorded on Earth. And they've hit within 6 months of each other.
Terrible tornadoes in Oklahoma. Horrible. Carbon could cost us the planet.
That was Senator Barbara Boxer the very day of the Oklahoma tornado. So, Bill, global warming is going to cost us the planet? Causing these tornadoes?
The planet will be here. Well, the planet will be here. But if we have to continually rebuild and displace people.
The idea that the United States or developing world should limit their energy choices based on rising CO2 fares is scientifically baseless. And as I mentioned, the geologic record bears that out, and the current weather bears it out. There's no more weather extremes. You know, over the 20th century, you can go from hurricanes, we're at a historic low right now.
The Oklahoma tornado was the biggest ever.
And they have better monitoring. We had the lowest year on record for tornadoes, and since the 1950s.
There were fewer tornadoes. I'm struck researching this, how there's constant media hysteria, and it changes. In 1941, it was reported that World War II caused weather extremes. In 1961, the New York Times said scientists agree the world's becoming colder. Scientists worried about a new ice age. Now we worry about warming. Shouldn't we be skeptical?
Yes, and I'm sure people would say, well, science has advanced so much more. Well, science is always going to advance. The point is, this is the narrative of our day. And Bill keeps going on about overpopulation. The problem is that people now recognize one of the biggest problems is underpopulation. As the developing world gets more and more carbon-based energy, India and Africa, and starts developing, the population is going to level off. So the hysteria has been there.
So we disagree about the facts, Mr. Moreno.
So, you can't disagree about facts.
The problem is not just that there are more people in India and China. It's they are using more energy than they ever used to use.
And God
they want to live the way we live in the.
Why is that a problem?
That's a good thing. We live in the developed world.
Would you deny them that? I interviewed Jerry Brown, who said that they couldn't emulate American lifestyle. Well, who is he? How is the white, wealthy Western world and Europe and the United States going to tell people of color, 1.3 billion in the developing world, they can't have what we have? Who is Bill Nye to tell them they can't have carbon-based energy, which we took full advantage of?
Answer that.
We don't want to have less. We want to do more with less. And this is where the innovations come in.
Sure.
This is where the emerging technologies come in. But embracing technologies that produce extra carbon dioxide, extra greenhouse gases, at this point in human history is not in our best interest.
I just want to play one more video example to end. This idea that politicians can fix the climate strikes me as arrogance, and I think we heard arrogance 6 years ago from our president after he defeated Hillary Clinton.
This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal.